Chapter 12, Hawaii. Vagos who could afford the trip attended the annual Labor Day run held in Kona, Hawaii, a beach resort famous for sports fishing, sunsets, and coffee. Although the club had yet to establish a chapter on Kona, their goal was always expansion into burgeoning drug markets. Hawaii provided opportunities for members, many of whom were either former or active military, to reconnect with their roots. The Kona event attracted Vagos from California, South Bay and Hollywood chapters, Nevada and Mexico, as well as the many already established Hawaii chapters. Other local 1%er groups like the Kinsmen, Devil's Breed, and Satan's Brigade mixed with the Hells Angels from Oakland, who would hope to recruit them. My faithful surveillance team, who composed of Kaz, Carr, and Kyles, boarded the plane with me, passing through the metal detectors one pace behind Rhino and Headbutt. They reserved me a rental car in a hotel room at the Hilton that overlooked the Pacific Ocean. Shortly after my arrival, Kaz and Carr interrupted my view of the outrigging canoes navigating frothy waves with a knock at the door. "How do you like the accommodations?" Kaz grinned, but I knew he hadn't come for pleasantries. "Very nice," I said, glancing beyond them to the vacant hallway. The last thing I needed was to be seen socializing with ATF agents, but both assured me that there were no other Vagos staying at my hotel. Kaz delivered his bomb, but there is another informant. We spoke on the balcony. "Here?" "He's working for me," Carr supplied. "Started about 8 months before you did." "How do you feel about meeting him?" Kaz cut to the chase. "Give up my cover? Work as a team. It was risky to disclose my identity to another confidential informant. I didn't know him and I had no reason to trust him. What if he flipped on me and gave me up to the Vagos?" Still, Kaz had asked. I trusted Kaz. He must have had his reasons, though he didn't tell me the informant's name or what area he worked. "Okay," I blew out a sigh. Salt air whipped around us. "Just so you know, he's against the idea," Carr said. While I waited for the agents to make their arrangements, Rhino burst into my room. "Mind if I crash here?" A gold glow lit up his face as he tossed his things on the bed. Headbutt and Rhino's mother had become an item, and Commander, the timeshare his mother owned. He was in the way. I suspected he was used to that. As night fell, we headed to Lulu's bar. The place had a strange familiarity. Garish wide mirrors lined the back wall. Dim lighting framed ripped pool tables. Music beat a heavy percussion. The bar could have easily been transplanted from Victorville. The Vagos preferred the illusion of travel without the experience. Predictable violence against the backdrop of calm. Nothing but the scenery ever changed. And as the evening wore on, Rhino agitated over a cluster of Satan's Brigade playing pool. One racked the ball so forcefully he pocketed the 8-ball and sent another clunking over the rail. It rolled close to Rhino's boot. In a flash, Rhino cocked back his fist and played the next shot. The member, knocked out, slumped to the floor. Lulu's transformed into a blur of stop-action clips as fists landed against jaws, chins, and chest, and sounds muted to scrapes of stools across concrete, low moans and reflective grunts. To the Vagos conditioned to attack, like wind-up soldiers in a makeshift war, destruction was an addiction. It was much more satisfying to damage human beings than to smash beer bottles or steal motorcycles. Never let a patch holder hit the ground. The phrase originated after Vagos crashed a Halloween party in a sleepy suburban town, ordered the homeowner to leave, and then stabbed him brutally when he refused. While the first act may have been gratuitous violence, it flexed muscle and triggered a brawl, a second act that suddenly had meaning. Now members fought to defend their fellow Vagos. Guests fought to avenge the death of the homeowner. The natural order of things had been restored. By the time they stumbled out of Lulu's, leaving the place gutted, the purpose of the Kona run had surfaced. Act 2 began. In hushed tones, Rocco, a massive Vago from the South Bay chapter, announced that the Kinsmen had been greenlit, though no one knew why, and no one asked. The Vagos had orders from the head of all 5 Hawaii chapters to take the Kinsmen's colors the next day on a blustery main street crowded with tourists. The call to action promised bloodshed, anticipated arrest, incarceration, and a likely logistical nightmare for the ATF. Surrounded by water, escape would be difficult, if not impossible. Back at the hotel, I slipped into the hallway to report the threat to Kaz. "That's it. Go call your handler," Rhino slurred after me, and his tone, though joking, had an edge. But before I could rebuke, he sprawled across my twin bed, fully clothed, and with his head drooped over the side. In the morning, he would have a raging headache. "A few of us have been ordered to enforce the green light on the Kinsmen," I relayed to Kaz in the parking lot later. "We sat in my dark car, wary of eyes watching us. We're supposed to operate like a tactical team or special enforcement unit of the Vagos. Rhino and I were the highest ranking Vagos in the mix. We had to participate. Be a witness," Kaz said. I rode the elevator up to my room. It was late. I hoped Rhino had left me a bed. The doors buzzed open 2 flights below mine, and in walked Green Nation, the man whose tatted head had flashed so prominently on the court's blank wall during my preliminary hearing. I had interacted with Green Nation at a Hemet Vago event. I had played him as a dope source. He looked at me, and his foot-long goatee thumped against his chest as he chuckled. "You," he shook his head. Relief shuddered through me, so liberating to finally be myself, to finally remove my Halloween mask, to let go. We spoke in hushed tones in the elevator. Green Nation, aka George, enlightened me about the Kinsman problem. Reported that Woodstock, a member of the Puma High chapter, had engaged in a heated debate with a member of the Kinsmen just days before. Afterward, that member surrendered his patch. Rumors swirled that Joker, president of the Vagos in Hawaii, had given the Hells Angels a gift, an 81 support patch cut from the cloth of the Kinsman's color. "The Puma High chapter is all active military," George elaborated. "They have connections to weapons. Woodstock stashed a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun, a 22 revolver, and a .380 pistol in his bedroom, and dismissed rumors that police thought he had taken the patch at gunpoint. The next morning, over pancakes and pineapples in a hotel cafe, we planned to take the Kinsman's colors. No one knew why or how, only that Tata had ordered the action. Never mind that only hours before, Tata had held an emergency meeting in the parking lot of a nearby Home Depot to reprimand Rocco, Cowboy, Turtle, and Rhino for their random assault of a Satan's Brigade member in Lulu's. The Harley-Davidson rodeo event, he reminded everyone, was public, and the club didn't need heat. But as I drizzled syrup over my bacon, Rocco, secretary of the South Bay chapter, scraped back his chair and left to make another phone call. He spoke to Joker, who said the Kinsman was Woodstock's issue and the Vagos should not attack. I shoveled in a few bites of pancake. Rocco frowned, still conflicted. He left the table again, made a follow-up call to Tata. He said we should confront the Kinsmen and take their patches by force. While we vacillated between orders, 8 Kinsmen gathered at the Midnight Riders event across the street. George and I finished our breakfast, sucking on a few pineapple wedges. Meanwhile, Kaz and Carr watched from their cars across the street. Kaz, who had once infiltrated the Vagos, and Carr, who had testified against the club, could not risk exposure. Kyles, dressed in impressive black and looking like a tourist, openly snapped photos of the Vagos, including the international president, Terry the Tramp. Motorcycles roared. Awnings flapped in the breeze. Old ladies participated in a game of hot dog on a string. Hands roped behind their backs. They leaned sideways in the saddle and puckered up to bite the end off a steaming hot dog. Amid cheers and whoops, we watched the Kinsmen huddled together like a football team discussing the next play. We confronted 2 members from the Hells Angels Oakland chapter and wanted to know their intentions regarding the Kinsmen. The Hells Angels insisted they had no intentions regarding the Kinsmen. The Hawaii Vagos had the problem with the Kinsmen, and their dispute should not become our issue. The Hells Angels were on vacation and had no plans to get involved. In truth, the Hells Angels would never defend a support club. If the Kinsmen wanted to patch over into the Hells Angels, they needed to prove their prowess. Rhino reminded the 2 Hells Angels that it was impossible to mess with just one Vago. You mess with one, you mess with all of us. The decision whether to attack required a majority vote. 5 of us, George and I, Rhino, and 2 patches, waffled for nearly 30 minutes. We stared at the Kinsmen as they mingled outside the Midnight Riders event. We thought about fighting, but action eluded us. And the more we huddled, stared and huddled, the more foolish we looked. George and I finally voted to attack. It made the most sense for our characters. But even as we gave our nods, panic shot through me. How would we get off the island? With only one airport, we could hardly commander a submarine. Tourists strolled by us, ogled us like curiosity, window dressing. Meanwhile, the kinsmen clustered near the corner, engrossed in the street theater, periodically glancing in our direction. The token Hells Angels waded through throngs of people. They reached the kinsmen, whispered something urgent in their ear. The club bolted from the scene, and the Vagos, still debating what Woodstock or Tata would do, unwittingly avoided a war.